Hello everyone. Welcome to the Lightning Ball channel. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so and activate the notification bell. Your support fuels my continued efforts. In our previous episode, we noticed that although Malim's side frequently achieved victories, Midre, Obera, Geld, Carrion, Frey, and others on the battlefield sensed an ominous presence, as if a great disaster was about to occur. Moreover, with the increasing deaths of Insect Generals, Gobta and Ranga's opponent, Peliod, grew ever stronger. In this episode, we will witness Peliod's nearly overwhelming power and the battle between Primordial Demon Carrera and the strongest Insect General, Zess. In fact, on the battlefield, the title of the strongest Insect General was claimed by Peliod. Additionally, through Carrera, we will clearly determine who is stronger between Zegan and Zess. Zess is Zegan's older brother, and it was Zess's attempt to kill Zegan that forced Zegan to flee to the Monster Federation. So, thanks to Zess, Rimuru gained a dependable companion. Now, let's get started. First, let's look at the battle between Carrera and Zess. Carrera, now adept with the golden gun and katana, confronted Zess in the style of Tatsuya Kondo. The two fought back and forth, seemingly in a perpetual stalemate. Despite this, Carrera did not believe she would lose to Zess. Zess's existence points exceeded Carrera's, roughly estimated at over 15 million, almost 3 times that of Zegan. Yet, Carrera still felt Zegan was stronger. During previous training battles with Zegan in the underground labyrinth, Diablo had instructed the 3 primordial demon beauties not to attack the Rimuru-sama cells within Zegan. However, this rule didn't apply to Zess. With her combat experience against Zegan, Carrera could think and see further than Zess. Carrera's fighting spirit ignited, especially since her subordinate, Esprit, was holding off the insect queen Peliod. As Esprit's master, Carrera could not fall behind. She raised her katana and pushed back the advancing Zess. With a twist of her wrist, she aimed for a gap in Zess's exoskeleton and struck, sending shattered body tissues flying. But Zess merely smiled, leaped into the air, and delivered a downward punch. Carrera quickly retreated, and with a loud bang, smoke dispersed, obscuring the view as Zess's attack created a massive crater on the ground. Simultaneously, with a swift sound, a bullet shot through the smoke, piercing Zess's compound eye. The advantage gradually shifted towards Carrera. Zess couldn't help but mock Carrera, a primordial demon, for using such petty tricks. Carrera openly praised Zess's strength but stated that Zess could not compare to Zegan. Zegan was a rival Carrera respected, and fighting him was an entirely different experience. They would sometimes battle for days, but unfortunately, Carrera never managed to injure Zegan. Even without Diablo's stupid rules, Zegan was incredibly formidable. In contrast, Zess had been hit by Carrera's attack several times in such a short time, leading her to believe that she would win if the battle continued. Carrera's blunt words, showing no regard for Zess, severely wounded his pride. In his fury, Zess unleashed his killing aura, and Carrera, not to be outdone, increased her power, releasing her own haki in return. The clash of their auras created a massive vortex on the battlefield, engulfing any insect warriors caught in it with terrifying magical fluctuations, ending their lives. Malim's side had anticipated such a scenario and had kept their distance from the battlefield of powerful beings like Carrera. Next, Zess swiftly stepped forward, and Carrera immediately went on full alert, holding her breath as she watched him. Zess raised his fist and, moving as swiftly as lightning in the dark, charged towards Carrera. Calm and composed, Carrera raised her katana to meet the attack. The long blade swung, emitting a dazzling and fierce light. Zess's fist grazed Carrera's cheek, while Carrera's blade once again cut through a gap in Zess's exoskeleton. Zess spun around and aimed a kick at Carrera's abdomen. Unfazed, Carrera sidestepped, slipping into Zess's guard, and fired another shot at point-blank range, hitting Zess through another gap. Zess gritted his teeth against the pain, quickly retracted his airborne leg, and aimed a punch at Carrera's head. Carrera's instincts kicked in, and she managed to dodge, but her left shoulder was still shattered by the hit. Zess couldn't help but mock himself for failing to land a decisive blow. Carrera, still wearing a fearless smile, remarked that she had made a small mistake. Initially, Carrera aimed to defeat Zess without taking any damage, and although this mistake made her regretful, it did not shake her conviction of victory. Yes, Carrera was confident she could defeat Zess. Both their wounds quickly healed. For beings of their level, such injuries were insignificant. The key was to effectively tire the opponent and create openings for a decisive strike. Carrera had used Abyss Annihilation on the entire battlefield at the beginning of this war, which slightly depleted her energy. Even though she was certain of her victory, Carrera decided to proceed cautiously and launched another attack. However, it was at this moment that Carrera finally sensed the battlefield's strange changes. The oppressive aura above the battlefield grew stronger and stronger. Milim-sama was responsible for the vigilance work. With Milim present, Carrera hadn't paid much attention to the other parts of the battlefield, and Zess was not an opponent to be taken lightly. That was why it took her so long to notice the anomaly. Zess laughed, acknowledging that Carrera was indeed strong, but emphasized that this was a war, not just a battle, and therefore the victors would undoubtedly be the Insectars. Carrera frowned in annoyance, and used her magical senses to probe the direction Zess was indicating, finally understanding his point. The perspective shifted back to Gobta and Ranga. Standing before them, Peliod's body wounds suddenly split open, revealing a mysterious beauty from within. Peliod had evolved into a divine insect. At this point, Peliod appeared more human-like, whereas before, she had a more insect-like form. However, to highlight Peliod's uniqueness, I had already previously depicted her in a more humanoid form in the earlier videos. Please take note of this distinction. Peliod's speech also became more fluid, declaring herself the insect queen and empress of the entire insect race. She had now become an extraordinarily powerful being, incomparable to her former self. Gobta, who had just refuted Ranga's suggestion to flee, now felt panic facing this overwhelming aura. Ranga, too, realized that Peliod's strength was far beyond what they could handle, even if they grew stronger. Peliod's power now clearly surpassed all the insect generals, including Zess, who was battling Carrera. Undoubtedly, even if Gobta, Ranga, Carrion, and Frey fought together, their chances of victory were nearly zero. Escaping seemed like their only option, but doing so would leave them too ashamed to face Rimura-sama and their other comrades. It was Carrion who broke the silence. He declared that no matter what the opponent looked like, he would fight without hesitation. Leading by example, Carrion unleashed his ultimate move, Burst Roar, transforming into particles of light and charging at Peliod. However, Peliod remained still, transforming her breath into a poisonous mist that entangled the particle-formed Carrion. She then directly absorbed his kinetic energy, stripping Carrion of his ability to move. Fortunately, it was just a feint. Frey had anticipated Carrion's failure and, in an instant, appeared behind Peliod, using Garuda Claw to grab her. The claws were imbued with magic that could seal all abilities, and because of Frey's divine nature, even ultimate abilities could be touched. Once caught by Garuda Claw, there was no escape. However, Peliod smiled and remarked that it was a disgrace that her children had been defeated by opponents of such caliber. Frey immediately sensed something was wrong, but before she could react, she received a powerful punch to her abdomen. Spitting blood, Frey instinctively released her grip, which saved her life. Though Garuda Claw had weakened Peliod, it only limited her power enough to prevent an instant kill on Frey, requiring a second attack instead. Frey's timely release meant Peliod couldn't execute a follow-up strike. Peliod praised Frey's sharp instincts and combat experience, acknowledging that it somewhat redeemed her children's honor. Losing to someone like Frey wasn't too shameful for her children. Peliod spoke as if singing, while her four opponents fell into deep despair. With Carrion and Frey both severely injured, even the option to escape became increasingly difficult. A chill ran through Carrion as he felt a profound sense of helplessness. Milim-sama was preoccupied with guarding against Insect Lord Zelanus, making it impossible to hope for her aid. Frey was also gravely wounded, and Peliod was the absolute power here. No one could stop her. Peliod would surely kill the injured first, and Carrion felt utterly powerless. falling into despair. Frey, upon meeting Peliod's gaze, had already resigned herself to sacrifice in one final attack. At that moment, a man suddenly stepped in front of Frey. It was Midray. Midray now fully understood the oppressive sticky aura in the sky. It was a barrier. As for the purpose of the barrier, Peliod didn't hide anything. She stated that the barrier was not only to gather the power of fallen bodies but also to give birth to stronger children, as she herself needed greater power. Understanding everything, Midray made up his mind. He had to kill Peliod here and now. If not, after absorbing the power from the bodies on both sides of the battlefield, the insect army would become endless. Of course, Midray was currently at an absolute disadvantage. He lightly stepped forward with his left foot, lowered his stance, and suddenly launched a right punch like a cannonball, charging forward. The power from the earth combined with his fighting spirit, transforming into a fist-shaped energy attack. This was Dragon Magen Midray's ultimate move, Dragonic Cannon, imbued with divine power to break through higher-level opponents. However, while Peliod praised Midray's attack, she effortlessly nullified it using a spatial magic array. Fortunately, Midray's attack was merely a decoy. Gobta and Ranga's combined form leapt from Midray's shadow to launch the next attack, Apocalypse Howling. Yet, Peliod remained unfazed, using another spatial transfer magic array to make the attack disappear. This, too, was a feint. The true attacker was Obera. While the others distracted Peliod, Obera prepared her ultimate move, Planet's Bombing. Unlike Midray and Ranga, Obera's existence points were comparable to Peliod's. Being hit by this attack would undoubtedly cause severe damage. However, Peliod, having fought Celario for many years, anticipated Obera's move. She once again deflected Obera's attack using spatial transfer. Next, Peliod waved her hand, summoning countless meteors enhanced by her magic to fall from the sky. This was Peliod's response. The meteors, empowered by the combined ultimate energies of Midray, Ranga, and Obera, rained down upon the battlefield, creating chaos and causing heavy casualties on both sides. Yet Peliod didn't care. To her, the energy from the battlefield would ultimately gather within her, making widespread casualties advantageous. Facing the overwhelming attack, everyone was in a panic. Only Obera remained calm, assessing the situation. Since magic and ranged attacks were ineffective, she planned to resolve the fight with close combat. Peliod was not adept at close-quarters combat, and Esprit's success in holding her off was a good example. Peliod clearly did not expect Obera to remain so composed and identify her weakness. However, Peliod remained confident, believing that the energy from the battlefield would ultimately become her power, making her invincible. Yet, Peliod overlooked one crucial factor. Our most reliable ally, Geld, and his troops stepped forward, raising their shields to protect Milim's army. Even as their shields shattered and armor broke, they continued to defend others. Carrera's yellow demons also sprang into action, using healing magic on the injured and even performing the miracle of resurrection. Their faith in Rimurasama granted them the ability to revive the dead. Even if bodies were destroyed, the souls were collected by the demons for future resurrection. Seeing such unwavering resolve, Milim's army's morale soared. For the first time, Peliod felt shaken. The appearance of the resurrection miracle, something even she, one of the oldest insectars, did not know was possible, caught her off guard. Obera, too, was astonished when she first heard of this secret magic, realizing that the slime was in existence beyond common sense. Thanks to this miracle magic and Rimura's invention of the complete recovery potion, Milim's side suffered virtually no permanent losses. Obera calmly analyzed the battlefield, determining that now was the optimal time to hunt Peliod. The enemy was weak in close combat, and they had a significant numerical advantage. Obera closed in on Peliod with full force, and Midray and others moved simultaneously. But at that moment, Majika, using a centipede to dig tunnels, arrived to support, and willingly offered to let his mother Peliod assign him the honor of killing the enemies. The battle shifted to a 6-on-2 scenario. At the same time, Peliod demonstrated the powerful presence of the Insect Queen, using her skill Restore Life to channel the energy she had absorbed into enhancing the remaining insect generals on the battlefield, Zess and Majika. With this, the next round of battle commenced. Switching back to Carrera, she felt uneasy upon understanding the situation. Still unsettled from her earlier frustration, Carrera suddenly sensed a chill and quickly retreated, just as a violent explosion erupted where she had been standing. Meanwhile, the empowered Zess, strengthened by Peliod, felt an intense exhilaration. He boasted that, blessed by his mother, he had become closer to the new generation of the Creator God, and intended to use Carrera as a test subject to showcase his newfound strength. Well, Peliod was both Zelanus's child and wife, so Zess referred to her as mother. Being insectars, their complex relationships were not seen as problematic within their society. Zess's words undoubtedly wounded Carrera's pride. The thought of being treated as a mere practice target by Zess infuriated her. Carrera, known for her fiery temper, could not tolerate such arrogance. Zess declared that Carrera had no right to refuse and then swung his fist. Though the motion seemed slow, it reached speed several times faster than sound, causing the air to ignite and the ground to shatter from the impact. This attack was significantly stronger than before. Zess had not only increased his existence points but also seemed to have gained various new abilities. Carrera felt a surge of anxiety. She had planned her victory, but now she had to start over. Even so, Carrera didn't believe she would lose. While Zess's power had increased, his technique remained the same. Carrera would only feel threatened if he had skills akin to Zejan's. At this moment, Carrera was more concerned for her companions than her own bruised ego. Peliod appeared extremely dangerous, even more so than Carrera's current target, Zess. She wasn't sure if they could win, even with the support of Obera, Midray, and the others. According to Carrera's estimation, the combined forces of Gobta, Ranga, Carrion, and Frey only had a 50% chance of defeating the enhanced Majika. As for Peliod, she was even stronger than Zess. Originally, to avoid casualties, Carrera had chosen to face the second strongest Zess while Meline confronted the strongest, Zelanus. However, with Zess stepping back and Peliod becoming the second strongest, the situation had turned overwhelmingly unfavorable. Any sacrifice would go against Rimura-sama's wishes, so Carrera decided not to continue entangling with Zess. Although Carrera had been enjoying the fight with Zess, it was now time to say goodbye to him. Carrera had hoped to gain more combat experience, but with her companions' lives at stake, it was not the time for self-indulgence. She raised her golden gun and aimed at Zess. Zess wore a contemptuous expression, believing this weapon could not harm him. The previous battles had proven that the magic bullets from the golden gun caused damage that quickly healed, rendering them ineffective. However, Carrera's current actions were a ploy to make her opponent drop his guard, and the bullet she chose was the Judgement Bullet, capable of defeating even a true dragon and usable only once a day. Before Zess could react, the fatal shot was fired. He stared in shock at the hole in his chest, unable to comprehend what had happened. As the core sustaining his life shattered, and the feeling of life draining away intensified, Zess finally realized that Carrera had not been fighting at full strength from the start. Carrera shook her head, indicating that their strengths were evenly matched and that in a normal battle, the outcome would be uncertain. But because of her concern for her companion's safety, Carrera had to make this choice. Of course, Carrera had another reason. While strategic combat was indeed interesting, Zess was weaker than Zejan, so her interest in Zess waned. She could always return to the labyrinth to train with Zejan. Carrera's innocent smile instilled deep despair in Zess, though she acted unconsciously, a perfect example of a demon's nature. Zess couldn't comprehend Carrera's logic. He believed he was destined to become the new generation of the Creator God and couldn't fathom being weaker than others. These thoughts became Zess's final words. After defeating Zess, Carrera felt no sense of accomplishment. She didn't savor the victory, but immediately rushed to support Gobta and the others. However, at that moment, an ominous sensation swept over her. A voice, laughing, stated that it had been waiting for this moment. Startled by the sudden sense of crisis, Carrera hastily raised her arms to protect her vital points. She was violently thrown back, her mythic great arms fractured by a single kick. It was the insect lord, Zelanus, finally making his appearance. Alright, that's all for this video. In this episode, we clearly witnessed the significant progress of Primordial Yellow Carrera. Once, Carrera sought flashy, large-scale destructive magic, believing energy was everything. Now, she had evolved into a powerful being who valued combat techniques and winning strategies. Diablo and Zegan played significant roles in her development. As for Zess, who had been highly anticipated by everyone, his performance in this battle was rather mediocre. Although an ancient being, his combat skills were far inferior to Zegan's. It's noteworthy that Zess constantly proclaimed he would become the new generation of the Creator God. Why not the Insect Lord but the Creator God? This is related to Zelanus's personal ideals. Zess aimed to become like Zelanus, while Zelanus aspired to surpass the Creator God. We will delve into this in detail in our next video. We will also cover the battles between Nalim and Zelanus, and Majika and Midre. The next episode promises to be just as exciting. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you in the next one.